Courtney, that was bloody fantastic.
Thank you.
Let me tell you something, Courtney. Something has changed in you. Trust me. In the time you were on the show last year to now, your interaction with the audience, the confidence. I think this has been my favorite performance of you so far.
No one in that theater expected what was about to happen. A shy, awkward 13-year-old girl shuffled onto the America's Got Talent stage, shoulders hunched, barely able to look the judges in the eye. Her voice trembled as she introduced herself. Even Simon Cowell leaned back, skeptical. To most people watching, Courtney Hadwin looked like she didn't belong there. Just another nervous kid chasing a dream too big for her. And then, she opened her mouth. The first note hit like lightning. The timid girl disappeared, replaced by a voice so raw, so explosive. It felt like Janis Joplin had somehow stepped into the body of a middle schooler. Within seconds, the audience was on their feet. Simon Cowell's jaw dropped. Howie Mandel slammed the golden buzzer so hard it nearly shook the desk. In one moment, Courtney Hadwin went from invisible to unforgettable. That single performance didn't just go viral. It rewrote what people thought a child singer could be. Millions of viewers replayed her audition over and over, trying to understand how such a powerful, emotional voice could come from someone so young. Music legends praised her. Fans around the world saw something rare in her. Not just talent, but soul. And Simon Cowell? He saw a once-in-a-generation artist. Simon has watched tens of thousands of singers walk onto talent show stages. He's heard every trick, every vocal run, every sob story. But Courtney was different. There was nothing polished about her. No pop star choreography. No manufactured image. Just a scared kid pouring everything she had into the music. Behind the scenes, Simon became one of her biggest supporters. He didn't just see a contestant. He saw a fragile young artist standing at the edge of something huge. And he knew from experience how dangerous that spotlight could be, especially for someone so young. Because overnight fame doesn't come gently. One day Courtney was a quiet schoolgirl from England. The next, she was being flown around the world, interviewed by major networks, praised by celebrities, and followed by millions online. Every performance became bigger, every expectation heavier. But what fans didn't see was how overwhelming it all was becoming. The girl who had once shaken the world with her voice was now carrying the weight of it too. And that's where this story truly begins. Because Courtney's rise wasn't just inspiring, it was the start of something far more complicated. One moment Courtney Hadwin was singing in front of her bedroom mirror, and the next, she was living a life most adults never experience. After her breakout on America's Got Talent, doors began swinging open at a dizzying speed. She was invited to perform on international stages, appeared on talk shows, and even shared the spotlight with some of the biggest names in music. For a 13-year-old girl who had once been too shy to make eye contact, it was like being thrown into another universe. And from the outside, it looked like a dream. Private flights, professional studios, flashing cameras, fans screaming her name, social media exploding with praise. Every new clip of Courtney singing would rack up millions of views within hours. People called her the future of rock. Others said she was born in the wrong era, because her voice sounded like it came straight from the 1960s. Simon Cowell watched all of this with both pride and concern. He had helped launch careers for people like One Direction and Leona Lewis. He knew exactly what fame could do. Not just the money and applause, but the pressure, the criticism, and the way it can swallow someone whole if they aren't protected. Courtney was suddenly expected to be perfect. Every performance was compared to her legendary audition. Every outfit was judged. Every note she sang was dissected online. And because she was so young, people felt free to say whatever they wanted. Some praised her like a prodigy. Others attacked her for being weird, awkward, or not polished enough. What no one told her was that fame doesn't just magnify talent, it magnifies insecurity. Behind the scenes, Courtney was still just a teenager. She still worried about how she looked. She still doubted her voice. She still missed home. But now, she was doing all of that under the glare of the entire internet. And Simon could see it. During rehearsals, interviews, and quiet moments off camera, Courtney didn't act like a superstar. She acted like a kid who was overwhelmed but trying not to let anyone down. Simon would later admit that he worried about her because he recognized that look. The look of someone who is being pulled too fast into a world they're not ready for. The industry wanted her to grow up overnight. They wanted hits. They wanted branding. They wanted viral moments. But Courtney didn't even know who she was yet, let alone who she was supposed to be for millions of fans. Still, she kept pushing forward. She kept singing. She kept smiling for the cameras. She kept showing up, even when the pressure felt unbearable. Because when the music started, everything else disappeared. On stage, she was fearless. But off stage, cracks were beginning to form. And those cracks were about to turn into something no one could ignore. At first, the changes were subtle. Courtney didn't disappear overnight. There wasn't a dramatic scandal. No shocking headlines. Instead, something quieter and far more dangerous began to happen. She started pulling back. Fans noticed that her social media posts became less frequent. Her performances felt heavier, more strained. Interviews grew shorter. The bright, electric girl who once shook the world with her voice now seemed exhausted, like she was carrying something she couldn't put down. And online, the pressure never stopped. Every video was flooded with opinions. Some people still worshipped her talent. Others compared her to her younger self and said she had lost the magic. Some accused her of being too different. Others said she wasn't commercial enough. Grown adults, hiding behind screens, felt entitled to judge a teenager who was just trying to find her place in the world. This is the part of fame no one shows on TV. When you're young, your identity is still forming. But when you're famous, the world decides who you are for you and punishes you if you change. Courtney was trying to grow up in front of millions of strangers. Simon Cowell saw what was happening. He had seen it before with other artists. The slow burnout, the quiet anxiety, the way confidence erodes when you're constantly told you're not enough. But this time it hurt more, because Courtney wasn't a seasoned adult performer. She was still a kid who had been thrown into an unforgiving machine. And then came the whispers. Was Courtney struggling? Was she being pressured by the industry? Why wasn't she releasing more music? Why did she seem different? Speculation spread faster than facts. Every silence became a rumor. Every break became a "what went wrong" video. YouTube thumbnails started turning her story into drama. Some even suggested that she had fallen off, as if a human being could be measured like a trend. But the truth was simpler and sadder. Courtney wasn't broken. She was overwhelmed. The same intensity that made her performances so powerful was the same intensity that made her feel everything deeply. The fame, the criticism, the expectations, they piled up until it became hard to breathe. And Simon, watching from the sidelines, knew something important. This wasn't about talent. This was about survival. Because in the entertainment world, the spotlight doesn't just reveal you, can burn you. And soon, something would happen that would force Simon to confront just how fragile Courtney's journey had become. In a moment that would leave even him fighting back tears. The moment that changed everything didn't happen on a stage. There was no buzzer, no crowd, no standing ovation. It happened quietly, in the realization that Courtney Hadwin had disappeared from the spotlight she once dominated. For months, fans searched her name, waiting for new performances, new songs, new interviews. But instead of seeing a rising star, they found silence. And in today's fame-driven world, silence is dangerous. People started filling in the blanks with fear, rumors, and worst-case scenarios. That's when Simon Cowell stepped in. In rare interviews, Simon spoke about Courtney with a tone he didn't often use: worry. He made it clear that what she was going through wasn't a failure, but something much more human. She had been pushed too fast, too far, too young. And behind the scenes, something emotional happened. Simon learned that Courtney wasn't just taking a break. She was struggling with the mental and emotional weight of everything she had been through. The pressure to be extraordinary every time. The fear of disappointing millions. The feeling that if she slowed down, the world would forget her. For someone so young, that kind of burden is crushing. This is where the online myth of Simon Cowell breaking down in tears comes from. Not from one dramatic televised moment, But from the way he spoke about Courtney afterward, you could hear it in his voice, the regret, the protectiveness, the pain of realizing that even with all his power in the industry, he couldn't shield her from what fame does to young minds. Courtney didn't fall. She stepped away. And that takes more courage than people realize. Instead of letting the industry reshape her, she chose something radical: to grow privately, to figure out who she was without cameras watching her every move, to rediscover music on her own terms, not as a product, but as a passion. Slowly, quietly, she began to come back. New songs, new performances, a more grounded, more confident version of herself. Not the scared kid from the audition, and not the burned-out teen either, but something in between, someone real. Simon would later praise this version of Courtney even more than the first, because this time she wasn't just powerful. She was in control. And that's the kind of transformation that doesn't just save a career, it saves a life. But what does Courtney's story mean now? And what does it teach us about fame, pressure, and the cost of being extraordinary too soon? That's where this journey ends and begins again. Sometimes the most powerful stories don't end with applause. They end with survival. Courtney Hadwin's journey isn't just about a viral audition or a golden buzzer moment. It's about what happens after the cameras stop rolling, when the pressure sets in, when expectations grow heavier than talent, and when a young person has to decide whether they will be owned by fame or own their future. Simon Cowell understands this better than most. By the time Courtney came into his life, Simon had already seen countless young stars rise and fall. He had watched careers explode and then collapse under the weight of public demand. But Courtney was different because her gift was so raw, so emotional, and so real. When she sang, it felt like she was tearing a piece of her soul out and handing it to the audience. And that kind of artist needs protection. That's why Simon's reaction to Courtney's struggles hit people so hard. He wasn't disappointed in her. He wasn't frustrated. He was heartbroken because he saw a young talent almost get swallowed by the very thing that made her famous. Her story became a quiet warning. Not every star needs to shine at full brightness all the time. Not every career has to move at breakneck speed. Sometimes the bravest thing an artist can do is slow down, step back, and choose themselves. Today, Courtney Hadwin is no longer the scared girl who walked onto that AGT stage. She's stronger. She's more self-aware. And most importantly, she's still here. Still creating, still evolving, still singing in her own voice. And Simon? He didn't just see a prodigy. He saw a human being. A young woman who needed space to grow, not pressure to perform. That's why her legacy is bigger than any trophy or viral clip. It's a story about resilience, about choosing health over hype, about learning that you don't owe the world your pain just because they love your talent. Courtney's future is still unwritten. She may become a global superstar. She may choose a quieter artistic life. But either way, one thing is certain. She survived something that destroys most people. And sometimes, that's the greatest success of all.